Hello there. Welcome to this live chat session. Welcome to my views and news. Can you hear me, viewers? Araya Weldekidan responded, Miyatu. Thank you. Chapier says, I am addicted to your report. I am addicted to reporting, by the way. Breaking news for you is from Tanzania, Darussalam, where talks were being held between OLA and Ethiopian government. Talks collapsed. Question is, why did talks collapse? What is going to happen next? And on which note have the talks ended in Tanzania? This was second round of talks in Tanzania. On which note did the first round of talks end a few months ago? We'll try to compare the two rounds of talks. It's a big development. What happened today? Collapse of talks has been confirmed uh, by Ethiopian government. Details for you in this live chat. But first of all, let me welcome the participants who have joined this live chat session. Abjun Arge is the first one who commented. He says, hello, Sajid. Then we have Sigma A, Mende M, peace be upon you and us. He writes, yes, peace be upon all of us. Addis Alam Asaye, Chapier Liner, Daniel Key, Araya Voldekidan, Yamlak, Abdul Aziz Ali, Miyad, Gutima Yadasa, GH, Mahmoud Ahmadine, Getnat Sigai, Semper Fidelis, T. Dayesso, Johannes Sago, Korkor, Deng, Birhano Bakale, Sigai Hele, Semper Fidelis, Tazabi, Amane Noura, Red Moon Entertainment says, hi Sajid. Hi Red Moon, I like the way you are behaving today. TDF, Birhano, Zargao, Dendi, Lejisa, and several others too who have joined. Warm welcome to all of you. Thank you for joining this live chat session. Mere Adugnao is also one of the participants. Bihalo Tisfai to Birhano Zirgao to. Let me read a few comments, then I'll share details of the talks, what happened there, why did talks collapse? Is it a bad news for OLA or Ethiopian government, or for both of them? Hikim Tafira has joined too. There is a non-aggression pact between them until next set of talks. There is a deal under the table. Semper is breaking a news, which I can only comment on after verification. I'll respond to your comment soon, after a few minutes. Bad news for Ethiopia, Bihailo Tisfai says, yes, bad news for entire Ethiopia, because had talks been successful, it would have been a good news for entire Ethiopia, all Ethiopian. Bloodshed could have come to an end. So it's a bad news for entire Ethiopia. Let me come to the point, I think, because people say, Sajid, don't take time to share the breaking news. Let me, can I speak now? Come on, Fantabil says you are happy that talks collapsed. You have more to report. Pretoria succeeded. After that, I continued reports too. Now, please let me share the details with you. Uh, Talks have collapsed. Why? I am not saying talks have ended. I'm saying talks have collapsed. Why am I using the word collapse? Let's compare this round of talks and first round of talks held a few months ago. When the first round of talks ended, the two sides could not reach any agreement, but the end was on a good note. The two agreed to continue engagements, hoping that in future progress will be made. There was no mutual accusation back then. Neither OLA nor Ethiopian government accused each other. That first round of talks had ended on a good note, and it was expected that soon next round would start. The next round started after a few months. This round of talks has not ended on a good note. That is why I'm saying that it is a collapse of the process. Ridwan Hussein was negotiating on behalf of Ethiopian government, and he used three terms today when he broke the news of the collapse of talks. He used the word intransigence for the attitude of the Oromo Liberation Army. That OLA was intransigent. Undiplomatic word when you are negotiating and you're representing a group and you want to continue engagement. So this word indicates the indicates on which note the talks ended. Firstly, secondly, he used the term obstructive approach. That talks could not reach an agreement because of obstructive approach of the other party. So Ridwan is saying that OLA obstructed the peace talks. Thirdly, he used the term unrealistic demands. That OLA made demands which were not realistic. Two big demands were made by the Oromo Liberation Army. These are the accusations leveled by Ridwan Hussein, National Security Advisor, against the Oromo Liberation Army. We are waiting for a statement from the OLA. OLA is set to speak. When I started this live chat session, OLA had not issued any statement till then. But in coming hours, we could see a statement from the Oromo Liberation Army. What is OLA's position? So now, what happened in the talks, by the way? Which unrealistic claims are made by the Oromo Liberation Army? I told you, I think 2 days ago, that OLA is pressing for establishment of a transitional government, inclusive transitional government with participation of all opposition parties. That demand obviously is difficult to be accepted by the government. Why? Because government wants to complete its tenure. Government offered reportedly half of Oromia Regional Council seats to all the opposition parties. But that cannot happen now because election will be held after, I think, more than 2 years. That can only happen after the next election. So, first major sticking point was OLA's demand for the establishment of a transitional government in Oromia. Second sticking point was about a disarmament. Again, that is what I predicted. OLA refused to be disarmed, especially complete, immediate disarmament of the group was rejected by the Oromo Liberation Army. Thirdly, Ethiopian government could not give assurances to OLA about speedy and quick integration of all OLA fighters into regional federal forces. Other points were easy to negotiate, like release of prisoners, like accountability, but these were main issues. Uh, Maybe Addis Ababa was also raised as an issue. Ola wants the federal government to uh, decide about the status of Addis Ababa. Then Article 39, right to self-determination, though it can only be exercised by a regional council. It also came under discussions reportedly. So Ola made big demands. Article 39, transitional government, no disarmament. These are very tough points, a very tough position taken by the Oromo Liberation Army. That is why no agreement could be reached between the parties. Talks ended on a bad note, not on a good note, not a good sign for security situation, for peace and stability in Ethiopia. Great, great rest, great reset says Oromia will be united once and forever. I don't know how it will be united, but talks have collapsed. Ola is so delusional, Sina Jimjimo says. Well, I think Ola was negotiating from a position of strength. My conclusion before the start of talks was that Ethiopian government was more keen for this deal than Ola. Why? Because government forces are caught up on multiple fronts. Government wants some relief in Oromia. It wants to relocate forces from Oromia to other parts of the country. That is why government wanted a deal. It was ready to make some compromise. Ola was negotiating from a position of strength. EPLF did not negotiate from a position of strength. EPLF was under pressure militarily, so it had to make compromises. Ola negotiated from a position of strength. It refused to show flexibility about big demands which Ola has. By the way, Ola's demands cannot be fulfilled in just bilateral talks between Ola and Ethiopian government. The fulfillment of those demands would require the participation of other players to other Ethiopian political security players. So talks, that is why, were set to collapse. The two sides made some progress on small issues, but when it came to decisions on big issues, the two sides couldn't progress. Hussein Shinda, how neighboring group like US and failed to push the negotiation. US was there. I think Mike Hammer participated. It's Mike Hammer which gave assurances to the Ola. Ola was given assurances from some Western countries too. That is why Gelmaro agreed to attend the talks himself. Felipe Miguel, one of my members, has joined, member of the channel. What is he saying? He says, what do you think will be the next move from Abiy? Yes, important question. Did not manage to gather Ola to his side, and the tension with Eritrea keeps increasing with the continuous talks about the Red Sea. That is why I say that the government has been more keen for result-oriented talks. What is going to be Abiy's next move? We'll have to wait. But since the talks ended on a bad note, not on a good note, so it does not bode well for peace and stability in Oromia. Government is in a difficult position. If it starts a major operation in Oromia, it will be caught on two fronts, Oromia, Amhara. If it does not start a big operation against Ola, people would criticize the government. They would say talks have collapsed, government is only targeting Fano. Ola is not being targeted. Let's see what Ola does, by the way. Will it intensify its operations? Will it take advantage? Since the start of the conflict in Amhara, we've been seeing less fighting in Oromia. After the collapse of talks, we could see renewed violence in Oromia if there is no underhand deal. By the way, one participant mentioned that he had received details, that he knew an underhand deal, that the two would not show aggression against each other until the next round of talks. The two sides agreed. But the language used by Ridwan Hussain shows that there was no agreement reached, it seems. But we'll have to wait. We'll have to wait. Either PM Abiy's government will launch a major operation against Ola, which could be a problem for the military because military is already caught up in the Amhara region. Then military mobilization towards Eritrean border is also being noticed. Overall, it's a bad news for Ethiopian military too. Military overstretched, fighting on multiple fronts. No good news coming for Ethiopian military. Abdullah Mahmood, hi Sajid, and all his followers. Thank you, Abdullah. Welcome to you. The collapse of this round peace agreement meant defiantly the collapse of Ethiopian fast approach. Abira Kora says. KB, why did these talks fail with Ola but not the talks with TPLF? I think I try to elaborate a little. TPLF negotiated from a position of weakness. TPLF was suffering military losses. It was ready to make compromises. Talks succeeded. Ola is not negotiating from a position of weakness. It is not abandoning its demands. Ethiopian government showing some flexibility, but Ola's demands are very big demands. Razia Yusuf has joined. Welcome, Razia. Ahmed HJH, you're welcome, brother, is saying thank you. Stina Jimjibo says Ola has never been threat to government but to people. I don't agree, by the way. Ola is a threat to the government. Yes, not to federal government, but local governments, zonal governments, city level governments. It could not maybe turn into a bigger threat, but on a smaller level, it has been a threat. It is still a threat. Can you compare ENDF government versus PP or Malice versus Abiy leadership and their influence? Yes, I can do that, but in some separate video. Ilias Likesa, what will next? Yes, I'll come to it. John says, hello, brother. Amman Washe, important comment. The suffering of Oromo people will continue with both sides' political game. Which media in Asia is more focusing on Ethiopia? I think it's just my views and news. Asians are not very interested in Africa. And I think my views on news is the only English language news outlet, if you call it, or a YouTube channel, which is covering Ethiopia so extensively. There are Amharic language, Oromo language, Afan Oromo, Tigrinya language websites, news channels, uh, YouTube channels, pages. But in English, I think my views on news is covering both Ethiopia and Eritrea very deeply and extensively. One point I want to make before continuing the conversation with you, it was being said that Ola and RB were the same, were the two sides to the same coin. Talks just a drama, nothing will happen. The two are already in agreement. And I disagreed, by the way. I said that maybe Ethiopian government wants Ola to continue, but to say that Ola and Abi are two sides of the same coin would be a big exaggeration, if not an outright lie. So, collapse of talks and the tone adopted by Ethiopian government officials are evidence enough to say that the two are not allies. They have disagreements, they have real unresolved issues. I don't speak Tigringa, so thank you, KS says. What reason makes you to become interested in Ethiopia and Eritrean politics? War brought me to the country and then it just went on. Kilo Mamo said the same thing. Ola and Abi are the same, he's saying. Samuel Faleke, only solution is transitional inclusive government and dialogue with all stakeholders. Unfortunately, government is stubborn. What next? Well, this solution cannot be found through talks. Abiy will only agree to this solution if his government is about to collapse. Then he might sacrifice Oromian government. Oromian government is his power base. He is not a popular leader in Amhara, nor in Tigray. Oromia is his power base. How can he agree to disbandment of Oromia regional government? How can? He will never agree to it. It's great that in English, because all the diplomats can understand what's going on. Elim Gizao says, yes, Elim. Wakgari Baja, what do you think are the disagreement points? I mentioned the points. You can watch the live chat after it ends. I mentioned them, the point at the start of the live chat. Is Lima Migarsa stand with all? I don't know, but I think Lima was part of talks last time. Last time means in 2018, when talks were held in Asmara. Now, IGAD Secretary General Workane Lima Migarsa, who was back then, I think, Oromia president, they negotiated in Asmara with Oromo Liberation Army. I don't know what is Lima Magarsa's status now. He's not in Ethiopia, obviously, for years. He's been abroad. He was an ally of Ethiopian PM Abiy. Then defense is developed, and he just said goodbye to Ethiopia. He's not in Ethiopia. And I am not sure about any links between Lema and the Oromo Liberation. What is the implication regarding Fano? Well, it is going to be a sigh of relief for Fano. Because had the two sides struck a deal, Ola and Ethiopian government, it means that ENDF would have been relocated from Oromia to fight to crush Fano in Amhara. So it would be a good news for Fano, good news for Oromia, for Eritrea too. Why? Because if OLA starts new attacks against Ethiopian military, the military will find it difficult to mobilize towards Eritrean border or to send new reinforcements to the Amhara region. I think OLA gave some space to the federal forces to operate in Amhara by allowing the movement of government forces from uh, Oromia to Amhara. Now things could change, but too early to predict. Let's see what happens. OLA can create problems for Ethiopian National Defense Force. If OLA in Oromia, Fano in Amhara start attacking the Ethiopian National Defense Force on both sides of Amhara-Oromian border, it could be a nightmare for Ethiopian National Defense Force. So that is what I'm saying. It's not a good news for Ethiopian military. But we'll have to see what OLA does in coming days and weeks and months. Do you think this will force federal government to strengthen ties with Tigray transitional government? Yes, it's very understandable that government would like to form alliance with Tigray. Government is finding it difficult to forge alliances, by the way. Tigray meeting ongoing in Makale for days. The meeting started after federal government proposed a solution, 4-point solution about the status of Raya Volkayat Quorum, Marasagadev. That solution did not go well in Tigray. Eritrea also flexing muscles. In Amhara, an internal resistance movement ongoing. In Oromia now, OLA could resume major attacks. You see that on all sides, Ethiopian government has no allies. Tigray, obviously, government would want Tigray to be on its side. You said OLA and TPLF was still communicating. Do you have anything more on that? I'll share more on that once I have updates, but I share with you what I learned, that the two sides still in touch at some top level. Do you think now war will intensify in the in Oromia region? It could happen, because talks ended on a bad note, not on a promising note. We could see now problems for Ethiopian military on both sides of the border, Oromia, Amhara border. Important question, which I was expecting. Any chance for Fano and OLA to create some mutual ground? Well, they can agree on one point, that is removal of the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, PM Abiy. The question is, what is next? What will happen after that? Both have different ideas about future Ethiopia. Their claims, their positions are not reconcilable. If OLA, an Ethiopian government led by Oromo politicians, cannot reach an agreement, how can we expect that OLA and Fano can reach an agreement and work jointly? Josias Zina, have you seen my question? What is your question, Josias? Could you write it again? Samuel, I thank you personally for the efforts made to make English-speaking audience aware of the news. Samuel says, thank you, Samuel. What is next? Yes, important question is what is next? What is going to happen now? Uh, Josias, let me take his question. Would you have expected the peace deal can be effective? Peace deal between OLA and the government? Is that you're asking? Daniel says Sajid is biased. And Daniel always writes negative comments against me, against my views and news. You're welcome. Now, what is next? Sina, I have responded to your questions. I think two of your questions so far. What is next is the important question. What will the Prime Minister of Ethiopia do? What will OLA do? We'll have to wait a little. Ethiopian government has issued statement accusing OLA. Ethiopian government is accusing OLA for the collapse of talks. Let's see what OLA says, because when OLA people held a virtual meeting 3 days ago, I think they did not talk about what was being discussed at talks. They only said that developments are happening which will be shared with people in due time. They did not share details. Now they'll share details, I think. And we'll see what OLA announces. Ridwan's statement is not promising. It is pointing towards an escalation in the Oromia region. That military could start big operations against the OLA in parts of western central Oromia. But I think OLA statement is going to be very crucial. Overall, it's I think nothing good is coming for PM Abiy's government. Economically, you saw Ethiolease withdrew from Ethiopia. Ethio Telecom shares could not attract any buyers. And we saw that regionally, no development showing that Ethiopia is back in charge as the main player in the Horn of Africa. And now, talks. OLA government talks collapsing. No signs of any start of talks between government and Fano. Pretoria still not fully implemented. Tigray concerned that its territories are not back under its control. Amhara mistrusting Abiy that Abiy could hand over its territories to Tigray. Abiy, by the way, is in a difficult position. He's fighting on economic, diplomatic, and security fronts. Perhaps this is one of the most difficult times for his government. If these issues remain unresolved, his government could be in serious trouble, I think, in coming months. Iri is asking the same question. Iri is my mom is the name. Do you think Abiy can stay long time as a PM? If Isaias can stay in power for the last 3 decades, why can't Abiy do that? African leaders don't like saying goodbye to power. They are addicted to power. Abiy will try to be in power as long as he can. But as I said earlier, he's now fighting on multiple fronts. Traditionally, Ethiopians don't solve their differences peacefully. You either lose or win, and if you lose like TPLF, you're forced to accept the demand of the winner. That is how most conflicts end. But I think in 2018, this solved some problems. Uh, I think back then, Birhanu Naga, Andrgachu Sege laid down arms, OLF leaders laid down arms, ONLF leaders laid down arms. That was a promising era, by the way. But that uh, progress could not continue. Ethiopians back then showed capability of resolving their problems on their own largely. They resolved internal problems, they tried to resolve external problems too. Now, whatever is happening is not showing the capability, the true capability of Ethiopian people. Now we're seeing conflict after conflict. So when I say I don't think that Isaiah's narrative works for Abi Sajid, I was just commenting about Isaiah's. Obviously, Isaiah's Abi operate differently. But if a leader in Africa wants to remain in power, he has several tactics which he can adopt. And Abi was elected. You can argue the transparency of the election, but he was elected. So don't expect him to just leave or to be that or that he can be removed easily before the end of his term. Sina, important question. Will this stock collapse will affect Abi's mind on waging war on Eritrea or his interests for a port? Yes, definitely. Definitely. If OLA starts major attacks in different parts of the Oromia region, how can Ethiopian government even consider start of a war against Eritrea? It won't happen. So yes, I agree with you that collapse of talks is going to influence PM Abiy's decision about port, about relations with Eritrea. Uh, Ebenezer Gobeze, important question, saying, are OLA leaders allowed to be back in Ethiopia? Why talks fail? I talked about the reason behind failure of talks. You can see uh, the starting part of the video, the live chat where I explained it. As regard the return of OLA leaders, I could not confirm. An hour ago, I tried to contact people to confirm Jalmarov's return to Valaga. They are trying to get information. I think Kumsa Dereba, Gamachoboy were taken out of Valaga by mediators. US was mediating, Norway was mediating to IGAD, Kenya too. They gave assurances to OLA commanders and OLA people were taken out of Valaga by air. I think now the same team of negotiators will ensure the return of Komsadere Boy and other commanders back to Valaga. I'll share with you if I have any updates about the return of Ulal. Maybe they are back, but let me verify first. And Doc is asking about what did talks collapse. Magnetism, Abi will just withdraw ONDF. He means ENDF. Pano will enter and finish OLA. But that won't happen because this is a sham. By the way, any conflict, direct conflict between the OLA and FANO should not be considered, should not be promoted. Because this conflict is going to be a deadly, ethnic, bloody war. It should not happen. Security forces operate differently. They are accountable to some extent, though Ethiopian security forces have been involved in human rights abuses, extrajudicial killings, but still they are forces under some chain of command. If groups start colliding, it leads to misery. It leads to bloodshed. Let's hope there is no direct confrontation between Ola and Fan. Tiago says, don't believe that they failed to reach an agreement. They are playing us. Well, a few days ago, I was being told that Isaias and Abi were playing the people. Now people say, no, they're not playing. They're serious. There are serious tensions. Please don't write the same comment again and again, Tiago, please. PE, important question. Do you think Abi will give the same table to Fano as Zola? Well, who will negotiate on behalf of Fano, first of all? Does Fano want to negotiate? Who will be the chief negotiator? Fano will have to work on its internal unity first. Then you can compare about Fano versus government, Fano versus Ola versus government. And Ola is a more compact organization under almost a central command, easy to talk to Ola. We cannot say the same about Fano. Ola ready to talk. Ola agreed to talk to the government, though through third party. What does Fano want? Does it want talks to third party, or does it want no talks? So a lot depends on Fano too, apart from the government. The government has not made any sincere effort to engage the Fano commanders. Sajid, you recommend government should speak to Fano. Who is Fano leader to talk to? I pointed out this thing. Koala, please don't write any hate comments. Please don't use any negative words for anyone. What information do you have about Getachorev Tegarai? I shared whatever I had about him. I could not find details of a meeting which is being held in Makale. I think still ongoing for several days. Entire Tegarai leadership is in talks. Military commanders, TPLF senior leaders, Tegarai interim government officials, but no statement. Total silence. Either all these people could not reach an agreement, or maybe some understandings have been reached but not being made public. Are you sure for source that negotiation was collapse? Firaul says, I quoted Ridwan Hussain. I quoted Three terms used by Ridwan Hussain. He has confirmed talks have failed. He said talks could not reach an agreement. It means talks failed. He did not talk about next round of talks. Koala, I'm removing your comment. You shouldn't post any hate comments here. Tanish, where is Tanish? Let me see. "47 minutes have passed. Thank you for joining this live chat session. I think we should end the session now. I just wanted to share the news with you about collapse of talks. We try to analyze it. I shared with you the remarks made by the National Security Advisor of Ethiopia. We're waiting for statement from OLA. I'll speak more on this development in upcoming videos, but we can conclude that talks have collapsed between OLA and the Ethiopian government, and talks ended on not a very promising note. So we could see instability continue and intensify in the Oromia region of Ethiopia. Thank you for joining this live chat session. The same time tomorrow, I'll be back. If you want to be a member of the channel, you can click the link in description section or in comment section. Soon we're going to start member specific live chats and Zoom meetings. Thank you for joining. Stay blessed. Bye bye.